The prosecutor hid this evidence and a man lost 18 years. This conviction was secured without the jury ever seeing the most important evidence. And the prosecutor knew exactly what they were hiding. What makes this case disturbing isn't the crime itself. It's how the legal system allowed a conviction to stand, even after misconduct was exposed. In the early 2000s, a man named Daniel Harper was arrested in connection with a fatal shooting in a mid-sized American city. Daniel had no prior violent record. He lived locally, worked a steady job, and had no known connection to the victim. From the beginning, the case against him was thin. There were no eyewitnesses who placed Daniel at the scene. No forensic evidence directly tied him to the weapon. No surveillance footage showed him anywhere near the crime. The prosecution's case relied almost entirely on testimony and circumstantial inferences presented to the jury as certainty. At trial, prosecutors argued that Daniel had motive, opportunity, and access. They presented witnesses who claimed his behavior after the crime was suspicious. They emphasized inconsistencies in his statements during questioning. What the jury was never told was that the prosecution had access to information that directly undermined their own narrative. Years later, during post-conviction review, court records revealed that prosecutors had received a forensic report before trial. That report showed DNA recovered from the crime scene belonged to an unidentified individual, not Daniel Harper. This information was never disclosed to the defense. Under constitutional law, prosecutors are required to turn over evidence that may be favorable to the accused. This obligation exists regardless of whether the prosecution believes the evidence is important. In Daniel's case, the evidence was kept out of sight. The jury deliberated without knowing that biological material at the scene pointed away from the man on trial. They never heard that the state's own evidence introduced reasonable doubt. Daniel Harper was convicted and sentenced to decades in prison. By the time the suppressed evidence surfaced, Daniel had already spent more than 10 years incarcerated. During that time, his parents aged without him. Family milestones passed without his presence. Life continued, while his remained frozen behind bars. When the misconduct was raised in court, appellate judges acknowledged that the evidence had been withheld. However, the conviction was allowed to stand. The court ruled that the suppressed evidence was not material enough to alter the outcome of the trial. In other words, the court agreed the prosecutor broke the rules but decided it didn't matter. No disciplinary action was taken against the prosecutor. No criminal charges were filed. The conviction remained intact. Daniel Harper continues to maintain his innocence. The unidentified DNA source has never been publicly explained. No alternate suspect has been charged. The case remains closed. This story leaves behind an uncomfortable question. If a conviction can survive proven misconduct, what does justice actually mean? Was this justice, or was it a verdict built on what the jury was never allowed to see?
The prosecutor faced no criminal charges, the conviction intact, and to this day the case raises a question the justice system has never answered.